Now it is bulb planting season here at Common Farm. The autumn is upon us, and like many people, back in the spring, at the end of May, I ordered lots of bulbs and I paid for them, so that was one job out of the way. And then I forgot all about them. And in my mind, and I'm sure you feel like this too, over the summer, the quantity of bulbs I had ordered shrank to a box about this size, perfectly manageable. And then what happens is turns out I'd ordered a little bit more than this. And this is the first of 3 orders coming in over the autumn. So this post is about how to plant bulbs, but it's also about how to avoid feeling overwhelmed. And we're using the bulbs as a metaphor for life. And so there's going to be a little, thinking out of the box. See what I did there? As we go. Thanks very much. Join me along, and here we go. And if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks we give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club. And 300 other people are 300 plus other people are members of my club, so they cannot be wrong. The links to club membership and coffee buying are in the blurb to all my clips. Right, let's get on. So obviously your first job is to unpack, and I would unpack your bulbs as soon as they arrive, because they don't really like being in an airless box. And if you can, get them in as quickly as possible. So these were all delivered this week, and I'm going to try and get them all in today. So they were delivered on Wednesday or Thursday, and it's Sunday, and I'm going to try and get them all in the ground today. Cyclamen. Little pale pink cyclamen. Very exciting. These are to go up near the new studio at the edge of the woody patch up there. Obviously, I don't recommend just doing this, but it's quite fun for the picture, for the clip. And then it means I'm gonna have to pick them up and clear up later. Never mind. My bulbs come from Peter Nyssen, and I appreciate they are imported Dutch bulbs, but they assure me that they don't dip them in neonicotinoids, and for me that's quite an important issue. Special treat, expensive, Fritillaria persica, mine. So I'm putting them all in piles so I can see what I've got. Makes it much easier to rationalise the planting of them. I'm going to do that and then I'll come back to you. So I've unpacked them all and I've put them in piles of different varieties, and suddenly it feels much less overwhelming because I can actually see what I've got. I know what I've got. I've checked through my packing list and I've added up really to the 10 how many I've got. I've got 1,210 bulbs to plant, and I'm going to get them all in today. Fabrizio has gone up the field and he's mowing circles in the long grass, because nearly all of these are going to go just in the long grass to be naturalised. And I'll show you what I've got, and I'll tell you what's going in beds and what's going in long grass. White Camassia, we've got lots of blue, and I was very inspired to see white flowering slightly later this year with other people's gardens, and thought, oh yes, that's a trick I've missed over the years. Leucojum, it's a tall, grave-tide giant, is a tall, so we call it snowflake, but it's not a snowdrop, and it's later. It's kind of April, May time. I'm going to plant this in the woody areas to naturalise, which I'll be cropping it too. This isn't really for cropping. This is for bees. Cyclamen going in a dry, shady patch. Fritillaria persica absolutely going in a bed. This is too expensive. Very, very expensive. We'll see how it does here. The anemone white splendor is going in, it's going to be in a shady spot, but away from apple trees. Doesn't go well with apple trees. The Gladiolus byzantinus subspecies italicus is going to, I'm trying this out, may not do terribly well. Usually it would do better if we had a lot sandier, better drained soil, but I'm giving it a go because you never know. And if it goes well at the edges of the lug fall, it'll be amazing. The purple sensation are going in a bed. They're just up refreshing my stock. The Thalia, Narcissus Thalia, my favourite white narcissi, and I just love it in drifts. So I'm drifting it around the place. And the Muscari latifolium, that's going in a bed. This is a lovely tall Muscari. Again, you know, every day's a school day. One doesn't know everything. One has to keep an eye out for the good stuff. And I came across this year by chance. It came up in my garden. And I thought, what is it? So I asked everybody, and everybody said, that's Muscari latifolium. I was like, well, I'll have some more of that. It's got a tall, very generous leaf, and it's a much taller Muscari, so really good for floristry. So that's going to go in a bed so that I know where it is. Right, on we go. Now, as you know, we have quite a lot of tufty, long, grassy patches here. And those are the patches that I'm going to be planting the bulbs into. So Fabrizio has very kindly offered to pop up the field, and he's going to mow me quite small circles where I can put clumps of bulbs. So I'm going to plant my bulbs so that they come up in nice clumps, and he's mowing me some clumps. So before I set off up the field, I'm not taking all of the bulbs at a time. I may have 1,210 to plant, but I'm just going to take section by section, because otherwise I'll feel overwhelmed. And you know how it is, if you chop a job up into small parts, then actually quite quickly you get it all done. 1,210 bulbs. Well, if I did 100 bulbs an hour, that would be 12 hours and 10 minutes. I'm going to do more than 100 bulbs an hour, and I'll show you my clever trick. Especially for naturalising. Obviously, if you're planting in a bed, you might be a bit more organised, but for naturalising, I'm very quick. So there's no reason why I shouldn't get all of these in the day. But let's go up the field and see where Fabrizio's making his circles, and then I will follow him with the kinds of bulbs that can go, so I can do bulb by bulb into those circles. So come on, let's go and have a look. Aha! So this is great. He's mown me a little patch here, being very careful not to mow down the hellebores, which I planted last winter. Do you remember that clip about 3 ways with hellebores? And I planted a load of them, and they've survived. They've done actually, it's been good because we've had a nice wet summer, so they haven't dried out. They've had a good summer. So again, this is a perfect place. I'm going to put some leucojum in here, and maybe some other things, but definitely the leucojum's coming up here. So I'm going to follow around and see where else he's mowing, and then one by one, in they go. But we'll start with the leucojum here. Now, there are loads of reasons that I always wear an apron. This time of year, one of the reasons I wear an apron is so that I can do manageable amounts of bulbs at any one time. That's what your apron pocket's for, is filling them with your leucojum bulbs so that you don't feel as though you're overwhelmed. I'm shrinking the job. If you can do this, you know, you might just walk around with a couple of bulbs in your pocket. You might not be quite so focused as me, but as my mother, dear mum, says, with mulching, she says, if you mulch 5 barrow loads a day, you will get your garden mulched in the winter. And she's right. And I say, similar principle, if you put a few bulbs in your pocket and set up the field with a spade, you've planted those few bulbs. So I'm going to do a bit more than that, but you don't have to. You can just do a handful at a time from your apron pocket. So here is my trusty tool. I don't have a fancy bulb planting tool. Lots of people have lots of fancy things. Me, I like a sharp spade. This one's from Newbery, and it's hilarious because it's golden. I love that, a golden spade. And I just dig a hole, put a few of each of my bulbs in, and heel the hole closed like this. Hole. And I chucked a handful of bulbs in. I don't even really worry whether they're facing the right way up. And then I flip the turf, the mud, the earth, whatever you want to call it, back and reel it. Oh, heel it in well. Jump up and down. I weigh 12.5 stone. Is there anything more enticing than a pocket full of bulbs and a mown patch to plant them in? Planting bulbs is not just good exercise and a promise to yourself of something in the future. It's a lesson in patience, because sometimes, particularly if, like me, you're not too worried about whether you're planting them the right way up, they take a year or two to settle in and bed in, and sometimes they'll come up in the green and not flower for a year or two. I mean, it's not a free, there's no such thing as free gardening. There's no such thing as low maintenance gardening. There's no such thing as free money, come on. But the lesson in patience is nearly always very well rewarded, because even if these don't flower next year, and even if they come up 2 or maybe even 3 years down the line, I might have forgotten all about them, and then they'll take me by surprise. Gardening is an activity for people in the long haul, and if you're like me and you have no patience, it's very, very good for you. They always say you don't plant a garden for yourself, you plant a garden for generations to come. Trees, leucojum, all of it. Top tip, hello, if you're planting bulbs under trees, imagine the roots of the trees going out in a sun shape, and slice your spade in so that they're not going to argue with the tree roots. If I put this is not scientifically proven, but this is just my experience. If I put my spade in against the splay of the roots, I hit roots and it's more hard work. Whereas if I slice in, it's easy to get between the roots and plant the bulbs. And so my spade is there. It's a long time since I've done a bending over piece like this. So that's 50 leucojum grave tie in this mowed patch. Only took 10 minutes. On we go. And next up, anemone. And I call these wind flowers, and I'm not growing them for cutting. I'm growing them so that they blow about in the spring breeze and make everybody go, oh, but we're going to have them at the entrance to the new patch where I've got my new studio up the field. Clubbers, you know all about that, don't you? Where I've got my new studio, which is not finished, but slowly, there's going to be an entrance, and so I'm going to put some anemone. There's still a chance that there's going to be a bit more digging up, but I ordered these flowers in the spring, these bulbs in the spring, so I didn't know how far along we were going to be with the building work. So there's still a bit of digging up, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful about where I put them, but I'm going to have a little swathe in this entrance here. along what we could grandly call the drive. And the eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted that this is a dead ash tree, ash dieback. And some people are removing all their dead ash, but that doesn't take away the dieback. It's spread all around the country. What we do also need is dead wood for woodpeckers, beetles. So we're going to leave these up for the moment, and they're going to be an environment for the kind of wildlife that love and flourish on dead wood. Obviously, if there's a risk of them falling over and being a danger to anybody, we will cut them down. But for the moment, they can stay. So the mowing you can hear is Fabrizio mowing me a path back towards the house. And I'm going to plant a swathe of Narcissus Thalia along that walk to work, A, for cutting, but B, so that my commute is lined with white narcissus, scented white narcissus. Really very nice. And the commute, you see, here I am in the mini flower farm we're going to make, and behind me is the new studio. Don't mind if I do, madam. Classic Georgie. I am actually planting the cyclamen on the way to plant the Thalia. Which way up to plant cyclamen latifolium? Smooth side or rough side? Rough side. It feels, you can sort of see it's going to come up there. I don't know everything, so I looked this up. If you don't know what you're doing with gardening, don't worry, you can Google it and you'll get quite good results very quickly. So don't panic. We're not all expert gardeners and we don't all know everything. Have a go. Every day's a school day. We all learn something new every day. Right, in they go. Right, okay. And the RHS website says don't plant too deeply, 1.5 to 2 inches deep, which, given that this is almost an inch deep itself, means I must be careful if I want them to flower. Otherwise you get lots of foliage. It happens quite a lot. Same with peonies. Don't plant too deeply to get lots of flowers. Anyway, these are going in at 1.5 to 2 inches deep. And now I've learned something new. Total fail. I keep putting my remote in my pocket and then filling my pocket on top with bulbs. So I have to be like the old-fashioned way and just press the button. Anyway, little note on planting depths for bulbs. Here is Thalia at last. And she's, for a narcissi bulb, she's not very big. She's quite a little person. And I'm going to plant her 6 inches deep. Ballparking, if you plant bulbs, narcissi bulbs, about 3 times the depth of the bulb, 3 or 4 times the depth of the bulb, that works. I won't care really if she's upside down. She'll work her way around and come up eventually. If you really want perfect insta satisfaction, and you are confident that the deer won't eat them and the squirrels and all the rest of it. Actually, they're poisonous, so maybe they're quite good for planting if you do have a lot of deer or rabbits. They'll keep away. Do look everything up. Like I just said, the RHS website has planting depths for everything. I am going to ballpark because I just want to get them in. You might take things a little bit more slowly. You might only be planting 25. So check before you plant. But I'm going to go for a depth of this deep because that suits me, and in my experience works very well on our thick clay in zone hardiness zone 8. Right, 250 of these to get in. I better hurry up. More strategic thinking. If I have 250 Thalia bulbs and I plant them in 5s, that's 50 small holes. much less than 250, 50. And I'll plant them in 5s, get them in quick. Another good thing is that as you plant them out, if you have laid them out nicely, then the space kind of reappears quite quickly. So you feel like, come on, I'll push on through. I have planted anemone, camassia, leucogen, narcissus thalia, the cyclamen, and on we go. Now, these pink wild glads, they grow wild, sorry, I'm going to move you up. They grow very wild in Cornwall, which is further west than us. Really like free draining, full sun. We are anything but free draining. But this patch, this wild edge here, is the highest point. If our land here is anything but on a slope, it's fairly flat. But if you were to look for the highest bit of the land, this is it. So there's a very, very gentle slope running down from here back towards the house, probably, you know, in a couple of 100 yards. It goes like this, very slowly. So the house is probably a metre lower. So I wouldn't call this a free draining slope, and I wouldn't call it free draining either. But it is in full sun, good, and the bank of trees hopefully stop the soil being too waterlogged. So I'm going to put the wild glads, the Gladiolus byzantinus, in kind of chunks along here to catch the sun. Hopefully the ground will be a bit drained by the trees behind them. They'll be very sheltered, and I may lose the lot. But you know, in gardening, we travel in hope, and sometimes we do things which shouldn't work, and they do. So you never know. And I put the camassia in this shady patch. It's not that shady, it's kind of part shade, part sun, white camassia. I've got a lot of blue camassia that's been very well established for a long time, and it's bulked up really nicely. It loves our thick clay, really happy. And so in the spring this year, I saw everybody's white camassia and I thought, why haven't I ever done white? So 50 white camassia, just in this sort of semi-shade. And of course in the spring when they flower, the shade is less deep on account of the leaf canopy is not out yet, or not fully out anyway. So they should like it. And then they get shaded out for the summer so they don't dry out, and on they go. Right, in the interest of honesty, I'm going to tell you I'm not finishing today. Because the Fritillaria persica are going to go in pots outside the back door, and I need to clear the pots first. They can wait a little while. The Muscari latifolium and the Allium Puzzle Sensation, I'm going to do an experiment in the interest of space saving. I'm going to plant them in a bit of a sandwich. So I'll plant the alliums deeper, and then in the same space, the Muscari up the field, up the top. And in fact, I'm not going to plant them. Sue is going to plant them tomorrow. It is 2:30. So I have 310 to go, and I had 1210. So I've planted 800. It's not bad. And it took me 2 hours. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the threat of the arrived bulbs, split them up. Work out how long each variety is going to take to plant. Put them in your pocket and go for your life. Remember, you can check planting depths, planting widths, planting recommendations. The RHS website online is very, very good. So that's a good resource I would recommend. And also remember that planting bulbs is a declaration of faith in the future. Even when it feels as though the merde is a little close to the ventilateur, plant a bulb. And next year, it'll surprise you by coming up and flowering. Just when you're having a miserable Sunday, you'll think, oh, look at that! I did that in October, and now I'm getting my reward. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely day, everybody. I'm going to post this as quickly as I can because I feel there's a lot of bulb planting about to go. I am pouring with sweat, but I must take the dog for a walk because otherwise she will fade away. She finds bulb planting very boring. I'm going to take the dog for a walk, and then it's Sunday afternoon, so I'm going to cook toad in the hole for my family tea. Have a lovely day.